Are we ready?
Yeah, I think so. We're ready to go.
Very nice. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Wow, it's a big class. As Dr. G said, my name is Neil Schwartz. I'm president of SBRnet, stands for Sports Business Research Network. And we are all about data focused on the business of sports. And as Dr. G also said, we are co-hosts of the My First Job in Sports podcast and webcast. And I met Dr. G about a little less than a year ago, and we've just clicked, and we have our podcast, and I'll show you a little bit about what it's all about as we go through today. But today we're going to talk a little bit about data and research, information. I'm going to try to not make it boring. I'm going to try to not make it too data heavy. But what I am going to focus on is, really how to use data, what data is all about. Because you know what? When a lot of you get out of school and get jobs, whether it's in the sports business or any other business, you're going to be asked to use data as part of your job. Whether it's whether you're responsible for determining how much of a difference of soda for an arena, or where to move the next NBA franchise or place the next NBA franchise. It's all about data. Hold on, I'm going to close the door so my wife doesn't bother me. She sometimes does. So we're going to talk a little bit about data, and we're going to talk about SBRnet. We're going to talk a little bit about the process of using data. But first, what I'd like to do is, my name's Neil Schwartz. Please call me Neil. A lot of times people call me Mr. Schwartz. That's my dad. I'm a lot less wrong. But what I'd like to do real quickly is, and this is a big class, so we'll kind of have to move it quickly. Hey, go around the room and just tell me your name. Start down at the lower right-hand corner with the gentleman in the, looks like a dark hoodie, sitting on the front. That's you.
Just my name.
Yeah, that's our name. And where you're from. And where you're from.
Jameer Crump. I'm from Philly.
Cool.
My name's Scott. I'm from New York City.
My name's David. I'm from Philly.
Next row.
All right, next row.
I'm CJ. I'm from Jersey.
My name is Barrett. I'm from England.
My name is Manny. I'm from Jersey.
My name's Dylan. I'm from Delco.
My name is Barris. I'm from Colorado.
I'm Julie.
I'm Jalen. I'm from Jersey.
I'm Steven. I'm from Philly.
All right, so down here.
I'm Steve, I'm from Philly. I'm Riley, I'm from Connecticut.
Way to project. Way to project your voice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Gabby, I'm from Florida.
I'm Chelsea, I'm from Indianapolis.
I'm Nicholas. I'm from Jersey.
I'm Jamari. I'm from Florida.
I'm Oliver. I'm from North Carolina.
I'm Mitchell. I'm from Texas.
I'm Jack. I'm from Maryland. I'm Anthony. I'm from New York.
I'm Robert from Central Pennsylvania.
I'm Briley, and I'm from Maryland.
Gotta do it, Neil.
Well, I'm Neil, and I'm also from Philadelphia. So I originally was born and raised in Philadelphia. I now live in Florida, where the company's headquartered. I love it down here in Florida. The weather's beautiful, and my kids are out of the house. So both of those things make it great. But what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk a little bit about data and sports and all of that. But before I get going, I want to ask a question to the entire group. And you can just show me by a raise of hands, okay? How many of you think that once you graduate, you're going to want to get a job in sports in some way, shape, or form? It's the majority of you. That's great. The sports business is wonderful. I'm going to ask somebody who did raise their hand. The young lady in the front with the white sweatshirt. Did you raise your hand? I don't remember.
Me?
Yes, you.
Yeah.
What do you like about sports?
It's just entertaining, the rivalry, the people that it brings together.
Interesting. Young gentleman in the very front row in the darker hoodie, the first gentleman that gave me his name. I think you also raised your hand about wanting to get a job in sports. What do you like about sports?
I like the entertainment. I like the personality of the players, and I like can be different outcomes, so it's not never the same.
What's your favorite sport?
Uh, Football, NFL, I like watching the most.
You like Washington, boy, that must be tough living in Philadelphia and liking the Commanders.
It's easy.
Hey, I'm born in Philadelphia, and we're born with a DNA kind of hatred of the Commanders, the Giants, and the Dallas Cowboys. But that's a whole other story for another day. Let me tell you about me. So I have been in the market research business for 30 years, and I know that gives away my age a little bit. I am a little bit of an old fart, and I'll cop to that. But I've also been in the sports business for 25 years. I've worked with brands. I've worked with many of the sneaker brands you're currently wearing. I've worked with apparel brands. I've worked with many of the apparel brands you're currently wearing. I've worked with equipment brands. I've worked with financial companies. I've worked with retailers. I've worked with other brands. I've worked with teams, leagues. So I have literally, over the course of my 25 years in sports, been able to really see all sides of the business. And there is one thing that I know. Dr. G, this is where I'm going to call on you. What do I always say?
About sports,
Yep.
sports are fun.
That's a simple explanation why I like sports. Sports are fun. I love talking about sports. They bring a smile to my face every day. Every morning I get up, I look at a number of the trade publications, whether it's The Athletic, Sportico, Sports Business Journal, you name it. That's the first thing I do every day. Well, maybe the second thing after I get dressed and have coffee. So again, how many of you, by the way, are reading some of the sports news media that's out there? Maybe it's The Athletic, maybe it's Sports Business Journal, maybe it's Sportico, Front Office Sports. There's a bunch of them. Anybody out there? Any of you guys reading that stuff? I highly recommend you look into it. Whether it's Sports Business Journal, Sportico, Front Office Sports, Synopsis Sports, you name it. Pick one that you like and subscribe to it and read it every day when it comes in there. Because why? Because there's where you can learn about what's going on in this amazing business. And believe me, it's not all good newsy things, but there's been a lot of interesting things in the news. The NIL situation, the transfer portal for college athletics. Geez, what's Rory's last name? I forgot all of a sudden. Rory, help me. Somebody help me out here. Thank you. Mac just won the Masters. We're coming into the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. The NFL draft is next week or the week after, I think the 24th. So there's just so much going on in the world of sports. And I love sports because they're fun. We're talking fun, not talking about life and death. We're not talking about pharmaceutical and drugs and health and all the other subjects, politics that we can be talking about. We're talking about fun and sports. And that's why I love it. And hopefully you will love it too if you decide to go into it. Because if it's fun, it's never work. And it never seems like work to me. Always seems fun. This is 100% me. I am always up. I love talking about it. But today, what we're going to focus on is how we use research and data and information. Because it's really, we're in a data world. I mean, between AI and big data and all the other expressions that we've heard, we are in a data and information age like never before, and it's only going to get more so. Only going to get more so. But research can be done in a variety of different ways, can be done to touch it different ways. As an example, hey, there's a young lady I'm looking right at. It looks like a white sweater you're wearing in the kind of the first row that goes around. What's your first name? Yeah.
Gabby,
Hi, Gabby. How are you today?
good.
Do you like sports, Gabby?
I do.
What sport do you like the best?
I'm biased, but gymnastics.
Okay, how about professional sports that, maybe that we watch on TV or go to?
Football.
Okay, cool. Professional or college?
Professional.
Okay. Who's your favorite team?
Patriot.
Why?
Because my mom used to work for that.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Um, so, I just did some research with Gabby. I asked her, who she was, what sports she likes, what she does, and all that. Those are many of those things are what they call quantifiable or quantitative. Because if I ask the person next door, what's your name, person sitting next door to Gabby?
Chelsea.
Chelsea, do you like sports?
Yes.
What sports do you like?
Football.
There you go. Quantifiable. There's two. Who's your favorite team?
Eagles.
Okay, me too. Okay, so there you go. Tell me about the very first live sporting event you ever went to?
I think it was the 76ers versus Celtics, like a couple years.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
That was a bad question, by the way. That's what they call a leading question. But my point is that in just those two examples, I was able to put in or utilize both quantitative data, and quantitative data is exactly what it says, numbers. You can add numbers up and they equal a number, whatever it is. But there's also something called qualitative data. And qualitative data is really what I like to call the why of things. We know who you like, we know what you like, we know where you like it, we know all the things, the who, the what, the where, the how. We learned all of that quantitatively, but the why we learn qualitatively. So again, it's a mix of being able to use both quantitative data you can add up, numbers, and qualitative data. And we're going to, keep looking at this, but really what's going to happen is when you get a job out there, you're going to have an opportunity to work with data. And more importantly, you're going to have the ability to learn how to tell a story with data because that's what gets you jobs. That's what gets you promoted. That's what gets you notoriety. Look, anybody can be out there quoting data, believe me. I do it, anybody can do it. But telling a story with data, not always the same thing. And we're going to do an example. I'm going to bring some data up in a little bit, and I'm going to ask you to tell a story from it. I'll tell the first one, but then I'm going to ask one of you to tell the next one. So, working with data can be a really kind of eventful thing. Okay, I'm going to do is now I'm going to share my screen. At least I hope I will. Looks like my mouse went to sleep. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So, anybody are we seeing the PowerPoint up there now? That's up there.
Yes, we are.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So what we're going to talk about is how we use data and to make data-driven strategy, decision-making for sports marketing, management, strategic marketing. I will tell you, and it is a universal truth, that decisions made using data, facts, are always better decisions. I can't tell you how many meetings I've walked into and a CEO of a major company, in fact, some people who I respect a lot would say, my gut tells me this. And you know what I would say to them? Of course, it always got me a little bit of trouble, is what's the data telling you? I don't care what your gut says. I want to know what the data says, because that's really what's important. So we're going to talk a little bit about how data fits into the whole kind of process. We're going to look at data. We're going to look at a few different things. So as we're going, here, oops, my mouse fell asleep again. There we go. It's about me. Again, I've been around, doing data for 25 years. Look, I have been lucky enough to be involved in some incredible projects. I was involved in the IPO for Under Armour way back when they went public. I was involved when Crocs went public. I've been involved in a number of other transactions. People have come to me over the years because I hate to use this word, but I am an expert in how to use data properly. And people have relied on me for over 25 years, actually 30 years. So SBRnet, my company, We've been around since before let's just say we've been around since 2000, actually quite earlier. But I bought it in 2020, right before the pandemic. I mean, what kind of dope buys a business, right in the middle of the most major, the first pandemic that we've all experienced in our lives? In fact, it was known as a black swan event. Does anybody know why it's called a black swan event? Anybody want to take a shot at it? How about the young man behind Gabby? Yeah, why do you think they call it a black swan event?
It's a rare occurrence in your lifetime.
Rare? You're right, it is rare. In fact, it rarely or almost never happens. Well, that's what this was. I bought the business during the middle of a major black swan event, but I saw a lot of great possibilities. But as a company, we provide data focused on the business of sports in three separate areas. Number one is data that we make. That's data focused on sports fandom, covering 19 sports, professional college minor leagues across 65 separate categories. I interview over 7,000 sports fans in January to get their habits for the trailing 12-month period. And believe me, it is a very comprehensive piece of research. I am very proud of it. It's an amazing study. We also do sports participation data. Now, I don't make it, I buy that, but it covers 88 sports and activities. Hey, who knows what the number one fastest growing sport in America is right now? Yes. Ding. That's exactly right. Pickleball is just doing phenomenal. But guess what? If people weren't playing pickleball, guess what they wouldn't need to buy? Wouldn't need to buy sneakers, wouldn't need to buy rackets, wouldn't need to buy pickleballs, wouldn't need to buy clothes. So as long as people play, they're going to need to buy. And we measure that too. We measure equipment sales, footwear, apparel, equipment, domestic United States plus global. So we have really what I like to call the business of sports covered incredibly well. By the way, if you've not been on the site, I'm going to get to it a little bit, and I highly recommend you go and check it out. You can access it via the library. If you just go to the library, log in using your Temple credentials, and then just go to the content database and type in SBRnet or Sports Market Analytics, it'll come up. This is a little bit about our methodology. I talked a little bit about it. We interviewed, actually, the number should be over 7,000. It was actually 7,046 this year in our survey. Going to get that changed. But again, 65 categories, 19 sports. It's just an incredible wealth of data. And again, so here's a look at the sports. So we get things like fan demographics. You know what? If you're going to try to sell more tickets to, your existing fans, you got to know who they are. What are their demographics? Where do they live? What's their education levels? What's their household income? You've got to know all of these things that are located up on the screen right now if you want, except for maybe sports gambling, if you want to actually grow fan base. But let's say you want to, I don't know, you're selling sponsorships. You get this job out of school, an internship, working for the Sixers. I'm hoping that's the kind of jobs you get. And you're going to be, let's say, helping them sell sponsorships. Well, data is an amazing tool to really help you break the ice with potential sponsors. So again, data is an incredible tool. I will tell you that from experience, and I've been on both sides of this, I've been on the sender as well as the receiver, that when somebody leads with data, I am always more responsive. When somebody is willing to listen to the data that I have, as a sender, I find it incredibly gratifying. Data is an amazing tool and can do amazing things. But using data kind of comes with its own challenges. Hey, Dr. G, what's my time frame for this class?
We're done at 2:50, so you have about 20.
All right, I'm cool. Just checking in.
Yeah.
I got a lot more.
No,
So,
no.
so I'm about using data, but the one thing that I learned very early on is you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan for using data. And the first plan that I have is I use this funnel approach. I like to dump as much data as I can. I like to learn as much as I can and just toss it in there, top of the funnel. Now, I've also on the outside listed something called a SWOT: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Have any of you learned about a SWOT analysis in any of your other classes? Cool. You know what? I went to school a lot of years ago. I won't even tell you when I went to Syracuse. And I got my undergraduate degree at Syracuse. I got my graduate degree, actually, weirdly enough, out in California at UCLA. So, but the one thing that I carried all throughout my college career, all throughout my business career, is using the SWOT analysis, keeping everything that I do within the framework of that analysis, and then using the funnel approach. So I dump all of my strength data, all my opportunity data, all my weakness data, all my threats into the funnel without any really, discrimination between data. I just want to dump it in there. But then the whole goal is to allow the data to do my talking for me. Allow the data to drop to the bottom of the funnel. Don't me push it down there. Let the data drop down naturally. And that's when I find I'm really able to accomplish what I want. I'm always thinking about the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. Again, I let the data tell me what to do. I don't push the data around. And I talk to people about that all the time. I've seen many people try to push the data and shape it. It's not what you want to do. You want to let the data guide you. When I'm using data also, I love to use a concept called a storyboard. Have any of you ever heard of a storyboard in any other application? I see a young lady in front. I forgot, what's your first name?
Steve,
What is that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Steve,
Still could. Heath?
Steve, like Sierra.
Got it. So a storyboard is a wonderful tool. I actually majored in communications and management, and we use storyboards. A director uses a storyboard to help him decide what story he wants to tell. Writers use a storyboard to decide what stories they want to tell. Commercial producers use storyboards to help them, again, decide on what story they want to tell. It's all about telling stories. Everything's about telling stories. And that's what I like to, that's what you're going to find is going to really separate you from other people that are looking for jobs or looking for a job or even trying to get a good grade from Dr. G. Tell a story, and telling a story with data, even better. We talked a little bit about quantitative versus qualitative. There is room for both. Okay, one isn't necessarily better than the other. Now, for me, I use qualitative data to help me reinforce my quantitative data. Doesn't mean you couldn't do it in reverse, because you could, but I like to do it that way. So, we're going to talk about growing a business. We're going to talk a little bit about using data. We're going to talk a little bit about a bunch of things. But remember one thing, there's just not a whole lot of ways you can help a business grow. You can add new products or services to your existing business model. Teams, they're doing all these new types of season ticket packages. 5 game, 6 game, family plan, weekend game, weekday games. They're doing all these different products. Why? Because they know that every plan that they add will allow them to add incremental business. You can sell more products and services to your existing customer base. New food at the games, more ethnically diverse food. I mean, I was at a hockey game. Interestingly enough, I was on a hockey game the first night of Passover. I am Jewish, but they have some incredible food. They had Mexican food, they have pizza, they have even Chinese food, they had sushi. What do you usually think you're going to get at a sporting event? Hot dogs, popcorn, pretzels, peanuts, all the typical things. No more. They want to provide different food because it helps them grow their revenue. But we also talk about stealing customers. The young lady next to Gabby, you're an Eagles fan, right? So let's say I'm the Philadelphia 76ers. Or let's better yet, let's say I'm the Philadelphia Union from the MLS. How many of you are soccer fans? Oh, nice. So they want to grow their fan base. Now the MLS can decide, okay, here's what we want to do. We want to look and understand the differences between fans of the MLS and fans of the Eagles, fans of MLS and fans of the Sixers. Hang on, I need a drink. So again, data helps you identify those potential customers. It's all about the data, folks. It really is. You know what? I'm gonna skip out of this. Hey, by the way, forgot this last time. I would love it if you would follow me on social media, SBRnet. Follow Get in the Game with Dr. G and I. We would love for you to watch a couple of episodes. I'm actually going to get to that in a minute. But what I'm also going to do now is I am going to go to the SBRnet, actually to the SBRnet site. Actually, we're going to go to a report. Give me a second, please. Let me minimize this. Let me maximize this. I like to talk while I'm working. Okay. Let me back up for a minute. Okay. So, of course, this isn't right. Let me fix something. Give me a second. Now I've got it. Oh, maybe I don't. Yeah, now I got it. Okay. Do we see the data up on the screen right now? Or the information, the PowerPoint up on the screen? So this is an example of all the data that we currently measure, and it's a lot. I have to tell you, in each one of the sports, we measure over 300,000 data points. You know, multiply 300,000 times 19. It's a big number. There's a lot of data there to work with. And we're very proud of what we do. But what we're going to do is we're going to work from something that we call the fandom top line report, because we're going to start to tell a story. And this is where we get a little interactive. So somebody's getting called on, or multiple people are getting called on. Take a look at the report up on the screen right now. Now, the red line represents total number of fans for 2023. The blue bar represents the total number of fans for 2024. The orange line represents the year-over-year percentage change. The gray line is the 3-year average. So, let's see. I'm trying to see who I want to call on. There's a young man on the left side wearing looks like a white long sleeve T-shirt or long sleeve sweatshirt. Yep, that was you, by the way, who just went that way. If you looked at this chart, somebody put this in front of you. Which league clearly is having the biggest success when it comes to growing fans year over year?
WNBA.
It is. They're not the biggest. Who's the biggest? Who has the most fans? Anybody want to chime in there?
The NFL.
Got it. The NFL is clearly and clearly the winner and champion with over 176 million fans. By the way, the numbers on the left, you just add 3 zeros to whatever you see there so that the bottom number isn't 20,000, it's 20 million. Top number isn't 200,000, 200 million. So again, and then on the right side are the percentages. But what was your name, the gentleman who answered the question about the WNBA?
Mitchell.
Mitchell. So, you were 100% on target. The WNBA, while not the largest of the fan bases, in fact, they're among one of the smaller fan bases. I mean, college basketball, the NBA, even minor, well, maybe not minor, but Major League Baseball. There's a number of different stories here. But the story remains that the WNBA year over year has the biggest fan growth of any of the sports we measure. Who here's a fan? Who there's a fan of the WNBA? Why do you think that is? Why is the WNBA growing so quickly and so bigly? I just made that one up. Why are they growing? Hello?
The Bears,
No? Somebody raised their hand and said they're a fan of WNBA. Okay. They're growing simply because of the way they're promoting their players. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Buckers, who just joined the NBA, WNBA. So again, the data shows that the WNBA is the fastest growing among all sports leagues that we measure. Not the biggest, but growing the fastest. If you're a marketer, you're an advertiser, you're a brand, you know what I might say? Hey, not going to cost me anywhere near what it would cost me to buy the NFL or college football or even the NHL. But there's a good chance that if I buy the WNBA, I'm buying a league that's going to show growth. So where I'm at today is going to be much higher tomorrow. So it's going to be a good value. But we're going to look at some other data related to this. The next data looks at live attendance. So we're now looking at live attendance. Again, the red bar, 2023, blue bar, 2024, orange is year-over-year change, gray is 3-year average. Who there's a fan of Formula One? There's a gentleman up there in the back row with a blue, looks like they're in a blue sweatshirt or a blue hoodie. What's your first name? Next to him. On the left. Yeah.
I'm Anthony.
Anthony, why do you think Formula One attendance is growing so quickly? Because clearly they are the second, when it comes to year-over-year growth, they are the second best in terms of growth percentage, not in terms of total volume, but in terms of total percentage. Why do you think that might be?
They've added like 2 new racetracks in the United States, which expands to their like fan base and American fan base, as we see across all the other sports, is pretty like dominant.
Exactly right, Anthony. For a number of years, there was one race here in the United States in Austin, Texas. Now there are 3. Austin, Texas, Las Vegas, and Miami. Hey, Anthony, why do you think they chose Las Vegas and Miami as markets for them to put races in, just out of curiosity?
Those are big like tourist centers in the country.
Were you sitting in on the previous class? Because that's the exact answer. They went to they went to major destination markets. Major destination markets. They also, by the way, took a look at international population and found out that not only was these are destination markets, but also has a large percentage of people from countries where Formula One is extremely popular. There is one other reason, though, that has driven Formula One popularity here in the U.S. Anthony, you can't answer this one. Who else might know the reason to that? Just shout it out.
Their show, or their show Drive to Survive.
Exactly right. The show Drive to Survive. I think it's now in its 5th or 6th season. It's done an incredible job. They've added those new markets exactly to coincide with Drive to Survive. By the way, as an example, I am not an auto racing fan. In fact, just the opposite. But I started watching Drive to Survive. Now I catch myself every Monday morning going to YouTube to watch the 12, 13-minute highlights of the race that was on Sunday, the Formula One race. 2 years ago, there's not a chance you would have catch me doing that. But now, that's what I'm doing on Sunday mornings. By the way, also, the WNBA, look at their live game attendance. Doing really well. International soccer. Has anybody ever thought why international soccer might be the 3rd fastest of live attendance growing sports here in the United States? Anybody want to take a run at that one? Sure. Go ahead.
Maybe because of Messi.
That's one of the reasons for sure. One of the reasons for sure. But one of the other reasons is, and this is where it's interesting because this is where both live attendance and streaming kind of meet. Right now, if you go on any of the major streaming networks, whether it's Peacock, Paramount, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, what do you see? There's English Premier League, there's Spanish La Liga, there's CONCACAF, which is here, the United States, or actually in this Western Hemisphere. There's Bundesligas, all the different leagues are now on streaming. And what that done is that has pushed up interest here in the United States for international soccer. But what else drives international soccer? I'm gonna ask and answer my own question on that one. Soccer is very affected by big events, whether it's the World Cup or the Olympics, much more so than many other sports. Every time there's been a World Cup, whether it's in where was Qatar, or here in the United States, it elevates soccer, both the MLS as well as international soccer. Let's look at streaming year-over-year trends for a minute. And here's that WNBA again. Again, one of the reasons why the WNBA has gained such popularity is not only are their live attendance numbers up, but their streaming numbers are up. Streaming, by the way, has gone up considerably. What do you think streaming also brings to a sports league or a team? Does anybody have there's no wrong answer. So just say whatever you think.
Sponsors.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sponsors.
Well, it does. But what do sponsors want? They want people, right? They want people. And in many cases, many sponsors want younger people. They don't want me anymore because I'm not about acquiring stuff. I have reached the point where I got enough stuff. Okay. I don't need any more. But what they're about is talking in many cases to younger demographics. And who reaches younger demographics? Well, the WNBA does a particularly good job of that. So again, looking at demographics, understanding target market, target audiences really gives you a chance to understand what's behind the growth. What's behind the growth? I always love to understand that stuff. Remember I talked about my funnel? I'd be throwing all this data into the funnel. The streaming data, the attendance data, the viewership data. I'd throw it all in there. And I'd let the data tell me exactly what's going on. By the way, this is the streaming data. And again, there's the WNBA. So again, you can really see what's going on with the number of sports and what's happening. I want to stop here. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go to the SBRnet website. So I need a minute or 30 seconds, let's say.
You have 9 minutes. You have 9 minutes.
Come on, I can do that. I can do that standing on my head, Dr. G. You know that. Ta-da. All right, give me a second. So, guys, I have to tell you, I'm not doing this to butter up Dr. G because he's your teacher, but she is a wonderful co-host, and I'm sure she is a wonderful professor. Utilize her knowledge, utilize what she knows. She knows a lot. And how do I know? Because we do our podcast together. And anytime I bring up a subject, whatever it might be, Dr. G is tuned in. So I've got to give her a lot of props. And you need to also utilize this resource, especially when it comes time to trying to find a job. Because you know what? You're going to need it. So what we're looking at right now is the front or the homepage of SBRnet. This is actually the one for Temple. When you go to the website, when you go to the Temple Library website and you type in SBRnet or Sports Market Analytics, up will come the site. If you don't see the logo, you're not on the site. Okay, so if you don't see the logo, you're not on the site. But let me walk you through a couple of areas that I think are really important for you. Okay, One of them is what we call our super search or search feature, which will be enhanced very shortly with AI. But right now, what it's enhanced by are my three analysts that work for me who every day, remember I told you every day I get up and I look at the trades and the sports publications and all that? Guess what? So do they. So they are, and I'll just pick the NFL here. I could pick anything. I type in my search phrase and up comes data. I don't know how 418, that's like Friday. I don't know how the heck that happened. But wow, my birthday too, by the way. But again, our analysts are combing through all of the trades to not, what they're doing is they're making your life easier. So if you're going to get a project that revolves around the NFL or growing, a, a question might be, and you might have to ask, where should the NFL go next in terms of a franchise? Where should they put an expansion franchise? You might have some, you might want to use our data for that because quite frankly, I have, there's a lot of ways you could use our data. But again, we've taken that process out of, making it hard. You can literally download the article or click on the article and then download it. I think somebody got the wrong date on this one. Have to be. So April 16th. There we go. So I'll have to get that fixed. But again, we've taken the work away from you that you don't have to do the hard stuff. I'm doing it for you already. Okay, our summary area. Here's where we look and see how the different teams and leagues are doing. Now, we have an area that's got a lot more depth to the data, but remember when I talked about the WNBA data a little while ago? Well, here's where it was. And look where it shows. We stopped measuring the WNBA in 2018 for a reason that I can't really fathom. I picked it up again in 2021. But as you can see, since 2021, they have jumped from 28,270,000 fans up to 59 million, almost 60 million fans of the WNBA. That is a monster growth, just monster. But again, here is a place where you can get at data very quickly. You can get at social media habits. You can get at streaming versus what I call traditional viewing. Here's a question. How many of you still consume sports on traditional TV, cable, or satellite? Me. How many of you watch your sports via streaming? You know what? That's exactly what's going on in the sports world. So again, we're able to look at that data, understand it a little bit more, made it a little bigger. I break it down by a couple other things. We've got demographic data, social media data. So there's an awful lot of data here for you to utilize, in your various projects. Last area. We have something here called the Resource Center. One of the things I want to show you is my first job in sports. This is where Dr. G and I interview students who are in their first, second, third job out of sports, and they're here to guide you on the things they did to help them get their job. This is Gabby Mayo from Florida Atlantic University. She talked very detailed about how she went from FAU, got her MBA, got her first internship, got her second internship, and now she is working for the Cincinnati Reds in what they call baseball operations. She got a dream job. But what's interesting about Gabby is that she was just like you guys. She was shy. She was afraid to walk up and talk to people. But Gabby talks how she overcame that and how she learned how to talk to people in the industry. When you start going to conferences, and I hope to see a lot of you, by the way, at our Get in the Game event that takes place November 7th through 9th in Baltimore. That's where I met Dr. G. It's a wonderful event. We're focused on helping students of color specifically help get jobs and internships in the sports business. But remember also, I talked a little bit about, things to read and all that. But how about following some key people on social media? You should be following some of these key people. Pick out one person. Alex Silverman is somebody that I like to follow. Bill Shea is somebody I like to follow also. He's kind of funny. But again, there's a lot of people that you can pick. Pick one. Don't pick five. Pick one. And just follow that person. Here in the Resource Center, we also have a list of podcasts. Again, there's our podcast. That's Dr. G and I. Now, I'm hoping that you're all start listening or watching. You know, it's an easy listen. Throw your headphones in, walking across campus, walking to get your favorite cheesesteak. Hey, by the way, where does everybody go to get cheesesteaks now in Philadelphia? I know where I used to go. What's your favorite? Anybody want to throw one out? Yeah.
There's one out northwest called Chubby's.
Dr. G, you told me about Chubby's, I think.
I personally like it.
I'm a D'Alessandro's guy. I've been in. Oh, look at that! Guy giving me a down thumb. I love D'Alessandro's. I haven't been back to Philly in quite some time, quite frankly. But I did grow up there, and so I am familiar with D'Alessandro's. But again, there's some great podcasts here. Pick one you like, and just listen to it. It can be really helpful for you. I want to thank Dr. G for inviting me into class. Are there any questions? Have any of you started working on internships for the summer? I saw a hand go up. What are you working on?
Community relations with the union.
That's a good one. How about anybody else working on one? Yeah, I forgot your first name, but what are you working on?
I'm going to be at Hawk Sales in North Carolina.
Excellent. Let me tell you, getting internships has to be one of your most important objectives. What year are most of you in? Are most of you like juniors, seniors? What are most of you? Okay, sophomores, juniors? So again, getting those internships are what gets your career off to a great start. Hey, I want to thank Dr. G for inviting me in. I hope we've been able to cover some ground today, and maybe you've even learned something. That would be a real extra benefit. So again, are there any more questions? Yes, Gabby.
Question just because I'm from Florida. Where are you from in Florida? Or where?
I am from Boca Raton. Do you know where that is?
That's my hometown.
Oh, really? Where'd you go to high school?
Spanish River.
That's where my daughter went. My daughter's a river girl, and then went to Florida for undergraduate. So very nice. Yeah, I love it. What's not to love? It doesn't suck. Any other questions? Anything anybody else want to add? It can be on any subject. Or anything I know. Yes.
They don't need to go.
Okay. Time to go.
They're moving. So thanks so much, Neil.